Welcome back to Sunrise Diddy. Well, we are focusing on the transport system, but yeah, largely about the rail system. I know you saw some reports about road construction there. So we do have, as you may have seen in that welcoming slide, the Minister of Transport, Chibuike Amaechi, here with us this morning. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. How are you?
Well, let's start with this. I know you work a lot with these Chinese people. What's going on? There's always this apprehension about coronavirus and things like that. How are you approaching working with them now?
Well, didn't you see me last week? Is it last week or 2 weeks ago with the chairman of CCCC on site at the Lagos-Ibadan Railway?
Is there there wasn't any thought as to what?
For two reasons. I hear that the coronavirus is just not a killer virus.
Oh.
What I mean by that is that it's not as deadly as SARS. Everybody was just running away. Again, I'm not saying that we should all go and get coronavirus. The next other reason I hear is that the next other reason why I'm still working with them, despite the fact that I'm compelled to do that, is the fact that those who are here that they're working with now didn't travel. So obviously they could have procured or acquired coronavirus. Those who traveled and are back are quarantined. And they will be there for 18 to 21 days, after which they will come out here in Lagos.
Okay, because, there's always that concern that, wait a minute, because you know how these images circulate online, the kind of things.
Forget those things.
So we just wonder.
There are some stories.
It's a good thing we know that measures are being taken to ensure that everybody is
safe. The government is not irresponsible. You didn't know how many we are? Nearly 200 million persons. So government will be that irresponsible to lose 200 million persons. It's going to be disastrous if such a thing gets here. So government has taken, you heard the Minister for Health about preemptive measures and all that, or precautionary measures. And I'm sure that we're not irresponsible enough. And the fact that I talk with them, meet with them, should reassure you, I don't want to die. I have children and I have a wife.
I know you've been having running battles. Yeah, with deadlines.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting up with, with all of those things. Where are we now at the moment?
We agreed that I shouldn't tell anybody about deadlines anymore. So I won't tell you, honestly. But I've been given an assurance, but I won't tell anybody until that day.
But at least the one we read is you say, okay, now we're not going to place any more deadline. They are the ones who are giving us time now, and they've given you April 2020.
No, it's not true. That was the first time. What I said the first time that 2020 I would expect them to complete, and they had agreed then. Now, they said, we've run into a problem. And whether you like it or not, they've actually run into a problem. What's the problem? Their goods were yet to be cleared from the seaport. Right? What has happened is that you will say MP is under the Minister of Transport. So the managing director of MP helped to get these vessels to berth. Now they are clearing. Now, because of that time lag, because of that period within which they were not able to clear the commodities they need or the cargoes they need to build stations, do the signaling and communication, they've completed tracks. I use the track to Ibadan and back, but that's not what is railway. You have to deal with signaling, you have to deal with terminals and all that. That's where we are. Now that all that has been discharged from the seaport, we hope that they will complete it according to the time they gave me. I won't tell anybody the time. I'll give it
like, are you comfortable with the pace of work?
No, there's an improvement now. Since they have cleared the items they need to complete those things, the stations and the signaling, the pace of work has increased. Manpower also, the number of personnel has also increased.
Especially given that the pace of work is not just in one location; it's spread all over the place.
But I've told you the reason. It wasn't as if they just decided to slow down. It was that if you needed roofing materials to be able to roof a station, and there are no roofing materials, will you jump on top of the roof? You will not. You have to wait. Now that they have all left the seaport, and I asked the question, I asked them, why do you have to import them? And I can give you their reply. They said most of these items you also import. So the third party they're buying from, has imported it from outside the country. Why can't they also they import from their own country to reduce the the connection with a third party?
Speaking of clearing, I recall that a few weeks ago we got delivery of some coaches from China. Have they been cleared?
They've not. If they have, you have seen me jump on it.
So why is it difficult to get that?
Well, there is a little bit of crisis in the seaport, which the managing director of the Nigerian Port Authority is dealing with. you know, when the border was closed, all those who used to smuggle in things or who used to go to, some are genuine, some actually go to clear, take their cargoes to, what do you call the seaport in the Republic, and clear it there and come by road. Now they are clearing from the Lagos seaport. That has increased the volume of activities in the Lagos seaport. So you have vessels that are waiting for their turn to berth, as against the infrastructure. The actual truth is that those infrastructures were built in the 60s or 70s, I can't remember now. Have we expanded? How? We've not. So you need to build more seaports or river ports, whatever it is, or expand the infrastructure in those seaports so that they can take more vessels. Now, I don't think the seaports or the river ports in Nigeria can take those vessels of 18 meters and all that. Those vessels berth at the seaport in Port Novo, and then the goods are brought in. What we're doing currently is transshipping. So when those vessels come into Nigeria, they say at mid-sea, and then they transship to smaller vessels, maybe 2 or 3 of them, that brings it into the country. So with the development of the Lekki deep seaport, all that will stop. So those kind of vessels will go to Lekki deep seaport. They are phasing out all these 11-meter, 12-meter, 13-meter vessels. They are going for 16, 17, and 18. That's the problem.
So one will wonder that when they eventually arrive, when we get them, will they be added to the current, perhaps, the Abuja-Kaduna rail, or would you hold on to them till you complete the Lagos-Ibadan?
No, they're not meant for just Abuja-Kaduna. Some are meant for Abuja-Kaduna, some are meant for Warri, and while some will be left for Lagos-Ibadan. That's what
You said that once the cargo trains and all are completed, that the certain things will not be moved by road any longer. You want to give us an idea of what these goods are?
No, I won't know. I have to meet with the Minister for Works. It hasn't to do with the type. It has to do with the weight, so that you can transfer those heavy cargoes to the train, to the track, which is built or has the capacity to carry such weight, than leave them on the roads and destroy the roads.
So while we wait for that to kick in, I'd like to walk you through an editorial that Segun Adeniyi wrote recently, and it was about the Kaduna-Abuja rail system. I'm not sure if you have seen it. And you have seen it.
Segun is my friend.
He mentioned issues like racketeering, talked about maintenance culture. He talked about the fact that he believes the fare is ridiculous, and that probably lends credence to what.
What does he mean by ridiculous?
According to him, he says that if the MD of the railway corporation says, you know what, we're spending 100 million and we're making 80 million naira, that doesn't exactly make sense, because he says that on one hand it's a loan and we expect that we'll make money out of this. So if we have a shortfall in terms of revenue, we're not making enough, then it doesn't make sense. So I'd like you to tackle those issues. First, about the fare. According to him, he believes that we should be charging way more. And he mentioned a lot of other things, but I'd like us to start with that fare.
Okay, so let me once and for all deal with this issue of Segun, because like I said, he's my friend. I didn't bother to talk to him about it. The first thing Segun didn't address in his article is the fact that the number of coaches and locomotives that were deployed to Kaduna were deployed according to traffic count. The traffic count at the time we deployed those coaches was 300. So every day you move 300 passengers, right? And then suddenly there's a spike. You have 3,700 passengers per day with the same 300, with the same locomotives and coaches for 300 passengers. Now what do you do? Don't forget that the locomotives and coaches are not things you just go to the shop and say, gentlemen, give me these locomotives and coaches, I want to move it to Nigeria. No, you have to manufacture, you have to fabricate. Now, it took us nearly 2 years to fabricate new coaches and locomotives that are just arriving now. So if Segun, as my friend, had asked me, he would have heard that, look, we've already placed order for new coaches and locomotives that will arrive in Nigeria that will sort out that problem. Oh, electronic ticketing, we've just approved electronic ticketing. It will also not solve the same problem, because electronic ticketing will be dealing with just 300 passenger tickets, not more. Okay, so they say, oh, it will eliminate corruption. One man wakes up at 2 a.m. and buys, by 6 a.m., he buys about 100 electronic tickets. What will he do? He will resell it, right? Now, so how do you deal with it? To deal with it, you have to bring in more coaches and locomotives. As soon as you have excess supply as against demand, what happens? Not only will the cost or price come down, those who are racketeering will no longer racketeer, because all you need to do is just, if it's a manual ticket, just walk to the station and buy your ticket and move on, because nobody will come to you and say, look, I have ticket, because you're holding the ticket, right? So that deals with that question that Shegun should have asked. Now, I'm coming. Everybody's saying, oh, increase the cost of ticket, increase that. They've forgotten that railways don't make profit because they are subsidized in terms of passenger. And it's meant to address the poor. So when you say, oh, no, increase the... Everybody, they've all come to me. We've actually moved it. Even the poor tells
to
you...
increase the cost of tickets?
That's what they're saying. That it's too low. Now, if you do, what about the poor man that wants to move from Kaduna to Abuja? What about the poor man who wants to live in Kaduna and come to work in Abuja? Who wants to save cost of accommodation? If he's saving cost of accommodation, you transfer it to transportation. So, usually all over the world, you subsidize railways so that the poor can have easy means of transportation, so that you improve on your economy. Don't forget, railway is built not for passenger transportation. It's built as a means to growing the economy of a country. So when people come and meet you and say, oh, increase the cost, you ask yourself one question and ask them the same question. What about the ordinary Nigerian? What about the ordinary businessman who is not as rich as the others, who wants to do business in Abuja and live in Kaduna?
But the concern here is, I just referred to the statement which the head of NRC made, saying that we spend way more than we get. We understand that railway is meant to be for the poor, but the terms here are quite different. I mean, the funding.
You didn't hear what I said?
The funding.
No matter where the funds come from, railways are subsidized all over the world.
So how do we recoup that? How do we repay that?
No. The economy will pay for it. Take the number of businesses that you grow along that line. Take the number of companies you've established. Take the kind of tax they pay to you. That's how you pay it. You don't pay it by the... how much will you get from passenger transportation? Okay.
I know you spoke about, that the government welcomes private sector investors who want to invest in operations and not infrastructure.
They cannot. They cannot.
Anything whatsoever?
Yeah, but as a Nigerian who spoke to me in Russia, he's bringing in rail buses. He wants to bring rail buses and partner with Nigerian Railway Corporation and pay for the franchise. Yes.
One of the concerns that a number of people may have, sir, is that the Nigerian Railway Corporation existed for many years before, your government came into power. And the railway system was very, very efficient until at some point in our lives.
Until we came.
No. Until at some point in our lives,
people blame us for everything.
No. When the railway system was just not there anymore, what are we doing to ensure that we do not go back to those gory days?
Let me respond to this question the way I responded when I was governor of Rivers State. Then we were building schools. We built over 500 schools. We built power. We had about 750 megawatts of power. We built roads and all that. And everybody was asking, how do you maintain this? What do you do after you've left office? I said, I don't know. I will do my bits as governor of Rivers State. I will do everything to ensure that it's maintenance infrastructure in place. But when I leave, how the next person manages it is not my business.
Which calls to question, sir. We need to find a way. I would like you to, if you do not mind, do that. Because over the years, it's been from one government after the other. Only when that government is on does its policy subsist. When that government leaves, its policy is replaced by another, which may not, create the much-needed sustainability. So I think the plan then should be to ensure that irrespective of which government is in office...
How do you do that? First is that most governments, with all respect to those who have served in government, okay, some governments are irresponsible. Now, take for instance, now what have we done? I can tell you what we've done to ensure maintenance. First, we have entered into a contract with the contractors who constructed the railway for 3 to 5 years maintenance. Secondly, we've put training institutes in place. We're talking about universities. We have training institutes that will train Nigerian engineers on how to maintain and manage those infrastructures, right? The government comes. One man goes to him in Nigeria. Oh, I have one new idea. We can get you somebody in Nigeria who will help you maintain it. And if you give me the contract, they give me a contract, the man doesn't even show up. Should I be held responsible? The community, the Nigerian community must learn to vote in and vote out irresponsible governments.
When you say irresponsible government, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about the fact that, okay, you have primary schools now in your state. built, furnished, and equipped. You establish maybe a contract for maintenance for 5 years. A governor comes and cancels it without any new idea. Who's that governor? He's the responsible governor. Because you see, key to crime is education. Because it affords you the opportunity to be employed. The governor doesn't know what it is to govern, doesn't know what it is to do. He doesn't know that education has other impact beyond going to school. Do you transfer the blame to the federal government? Do you say, oh, President Buhari built this rail lines, he didn't put structures in place to ensure that it's maintained? We have. But at the end of the day, one president comes, because somebody is looking for how to make his own money. No, this is Amaechi's contract. How do you know that is Amaechi's contract? Then he cancels. When we came in, there was pressure on us to cancel quite a lot of contracts. For instance,
in this real sector too?
No, at the seaport, for instance. Oh. We met dredging this, dredging that. When they came up, we said, no. Allow their contract to exhaust. We don't want all these legal problems. The contracts are ending this year, 5 years after. But what Nigerians are used to? Who wants to say, oh, the former minister for that's contract. MD Railway, please, MD MPA cancel the contract for this. It's cancelled without following due process. For us, for the president, for everybody, put in your best. Do things that the country will see that you have discharged your responsibilities. So build railways, ensure that you maintain it, put maintenance structures in place. But if we leave, what happens after? We become powerless.
You know, the last time you came, you spoke about this contract that you announced with, I think, an Israeli company, maritime security. What is the current situation at the moment?
We're addressing them by 11. Again, it's not a thing you pick up off the shelf. They've arrived the country. We should, between now and June, launch into the water. And we assure the country that we'll try to secure our waterways. We'll have problems. Those who make money out of the insecurity are already battling us, but we are ready for the battle. The president is behind us, so we're ready for the battle. You know, there are those who provide security for foreigners to get to the platform. They may be out of business, because by the time the water is within the purview of NIMASA, and you can see from beginning to the end, what are you giving him contract? When you have Navy men in the water, you have the Army, you have Air Force in the air, everywhere. So why? So those people will fight us. There are those who do contracts of pipeline security. So what are you giving him a contract for when you can see the pipeline yourself? And there are men in the water to protect. There are so many people that will fight us, but we're ready for the fight.
So this is across the country,
the entire water, from Lagos to Calabar.
Okay. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to just, zoom out a bit and talk about a national transport policy. And I would like to tie it to what you might have seen, the ban on tricycle and motorcycle in Lagos. And, it's been quite controversial, but I would like to ask, is there a national transport policy, and what role do those, tricycles and motorcycles perhaps play if they are involved in that?
Very good question. We're close to passing through the cabinet on the national transport policy when just one issue stopped it. And as if you knew, last Wednesday I just directed the PAMSEC to reintroduce the national transport policy to the cabinet and remove the policy they disagreed with, so that we can just get it passed. The policy they disagree was the issue of tolling. Is it Ministry of Transport or Ministry of Finance? Why should that hold us back? Remove the tolling, leave it to Ministry of Finance. Let's get the national transport policy in place. When it comes to implementation of the transport policy, it's essentially a state affair. So you can't be telling the state whether they want Okada or tricycle or motorcycle or not. That's not our responsibility. It's for the state government to decide what he wants to do. There are a lot of reasons why the state government may have decided that I'm not speaking as Minister for Transport, I'm speaking as a former governor. For me, when I was in River State, they were using motorcycle to rob and kidnap people. And the police can never get to them because you're using a car as against motorcycle. So I banned motorcycle for that, and we had peace. Number of accidents. The orthopedic hospital was full every day, and they didn't care. Right? That was the reason. I don't know the reason why the governor of Lagos said banned it. He would tell you, because he would look at, for a governor, the larger interest, the interest of the larger society is by far outweigh that of a particular group of people. So I'm sure may have made his decision based on the interest of the greater majority of Lagosians. Now, but he has a problem to face. And I'm sure he must have addressed it in his mind before he took that decision. That is unemployment and increase in crime. Because all those Okada riders and tricycle riders had provided for themselves a means of livelihood. Now, if you ban it and there's no alternative, the chances are that some of them may go into crime. But believe me, he may have made that decision based on the interest of the greater majority.
You know, you raised concerns about continuity with policy execution in this country. When I think maybe in passing, about governments coming in, cancelling certain contracts. Now, you also spoke about
policies,
this.
not just
policies, yeah. So what is, how much of the 25-year strategic plan on the rail sector does this government want to achieve?
Oh, we're implementing everything in that plan.
Everything?
We are everything. The only new thing we added to the plan is that literally everything about railway in that plan did not end at the seaport. So we decided to end every railway at the seaport. Because actually, those who conceptualized that plan may not have thought that railway is essentially about cargoes, not about human transportation. But when you see it, me as a layman, I'm assuming that they concluded that, look, if I transport people from Ebute Metta to Kano, that's great. So when we came, we said, no, how do we move our goods out of the seaport? How do you eliminate or reduce a proper gridlock? Only if goods can use the rail. So the only thing we've added to that policy, and the president approved, is to ensure that all our railways terminate at the seaport. So you have the Itabe-Warri railway that ended at Alaja, now ending at Warri, with a new seaport in Warri. You have the Lagos-Calabar that ended at Calabar, having to terminate at Warri Seaport, Port Harcourt Seaport, Calabar Seaport. You have the Lagos-Kano terminate at the Apapa Seaport. We are trying to see how to connect the Tinkan Seaport. The Lekki Seaport is another one that we have to provide rail for. But for now, no rail to Lekki Seaport.
Now, forgive me for, taking you back a little. There is a need for us to, you talked about the other time that irresponsible governments do not sustain programs executed by the government in office. Then it begs the question, does it mean then that the Nigerian is helpless? We have to just work with the people whether or not they are able to deliver to the dividends of democracy, as we say, to the people. Because these are lofty plans that you have put in place. The concern then would be, what happens if 5 years after your government leaves office or 10 years after your government leaves office, everything goes back to zero?
What would I do? You're asking me a question you're supposed to ask Nigerians. My job.
You're a Nigerian.
No. I've just told you here. My response to the question you asked earlier was, look, not only are we constructing, we are putting in place measures to ensure that there is maintenance, right? I just told you here that Abuja Kaduna is due for maintenance because they said every year you must replace 1/3 of the ballast. So we're going to replace the ballast. If you use Abuja Kaduna, the ballast, everything looks new. But it is an engineering rule for those who deal with railways that you must replace 1/3 of the ballast every year. So we're going to do it this year, whether it looks new or not. So why we put all this in place? If we leave, at that point we no longer have power because we have served our tenure. The power now belongs to Nigerians, and they've handed it over to a particular government. And the government ignores it completely. And you have the kind of, have you seen the narrow gauge? There are no stones. When you hear ballast is just those stones. It looks ugly. The ones you've seen in Lagos now is because we are rebuilding the narrow gauge in Lagos. We're rebuilding narrow gauge from Apapa Seaport, Apapa River Port or the seaport, to the end of Lagos. So you will see those ballasts. But after that, to Ibadan, to Kano, it's on the surface. So what has happened? Years of neglect, lack of funding, poor management of Nigerian Railway Corporation. Well, I don't want to put corruption because Nigerians are tired of hearing the word corruption. But you see, all that must have brought it down.
Okay, so we'll come back to this and just a few more questions. And stay with us. Welcome back. It's our concluding moments now with the Honorable Minister for Transport. just to follow up that particular one now, because I know that you're having several meetings with them. At a point, you did also say that yes, there's an embarrassing pace of work going on there. They had breached the contract several times. I know once you said that. I don't know if you said that actually. But then the stations at Agbado, Kajola, Papalanto, and Abeokuta railway stations, the contractor had promised to deliver some of those ones. But there was one which you say that by January 2020, you insisted that they had to complete all of those.
That's been completed. That's a Kajola station, which they are using as a model. But that's not enough. If Kajola station is ready, what about the rest? And how many passengers will actually be processed at Kajola station?
What about the Butemeta stretch of that same contract? Is it the same thing that they're going to deliver as well?
Generally, it's passed. What I'm saying is that the one they promised as a model is Kajola, and which is actually ready. And most of the materials at Kajola they got in Nigeria. They got from Nigeria. So why couldn't they have gotten the rest from the country? But you learn a lesson from that to insist that to grow. We also want to grow our economy the way they want to grow their economy.
So what's the timeline? When are they going to start?
No, I'm not going to. I told that I'm not going to.
No, not delivery. Manufacturing some of those.
No, it's already in. They imported them. But what we're saying now is that from Ibadan to Kano, please start producing such things in Nigeria. Let's get Nigerians to, because if we don't encourage our manufacturers, they won't manufacture.
So have they started, or when will they start?
No, until we get the loan. Once we get the loan and they start, because the first thing is alignment, clearing of the bush, and start the process of laying tracks and all that. Once they are doing that, we encourage Nigerians who have capacity for roofing materials, glasses, doors, windows, to begin to manufacture here so they can buy here. Because the contract is about $5.3 billion, which is about 2 trillion naira. We shouldn't let them take the 2 trillion naira back to their country.
So what is the next big milestone you're looking at in this whole construction process? What is it?
The one from Ibadan to Kano, which is about $5.3 billion. And we're also doing everything possible with the president to ensure that work commences on the Eastern Line, which is from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri.
Speaking of work, you mentioned earlier that there's meant to be maintenance on the Abuja-Kaduna rail line. So does that mean that operations will cease for that?
No. You will run your normal. Listen, it's just that we can even maintain the evening, the night. It's just to replace stones, the ballast, which can be done in 1 to 2 weeks once the vehicle is there and the ballast is around. It's just to lay the ballast.
So will it affect operation in
any way? No, it won't. Just remove 1/3 of the ballast you have and replace them with another 1/4.
What kind of relationship has the Federal Ministry of Transportation factored in with state governors in the areas where these trains?
You need to talk with the state governors when it comes to the issue of alignment, because the state governors own the land. So you must talk with them, because if they don't give you the land, you can't. But I'm glad to say that so far we've not had any problem with any state governor. You saw Makinde, the governor of Oyo State, talking about intra-city rail. That was what he came for. I spoke with my colleague, the managing director of Nigerian Railway Corporation, to talk with him to see what we can do to rehabilitate the narrow gauge in Ibadan so that they can use it for intra-city rail activities.
Anything they can do in the area of maintenance?
No.
Just asking.
How much is their budget? For now, it's only the federal government that can fund it.
So why are we with Ibom Deep Seaport?
But Chamberlain, I've never asked you. Are you from Akwa Ibom?
People want to know as well. No, they keep asking the question
it's not the federal government business. It's that of the state government and their partners. We've given them all the approval they want for now. I don't know where they are now, but whatever it is that we need to do, we've done bits on our side. And it was a good idea that the governor is going ahead with that project, and we're encouraging him in any way he wants us to encourage him.
Just on the side, now that there's been a lot of talk about security in the country, is there any way that the transport ministry is looking to perhaps add to this fight against insecurity as a ministry?
We're already adding to it. The cure to insecurity is employment and not the eradication of poverty, reduction in poverty. The people who are doing this, you and I won't sleep. We won't sleep until you find a solution to poverty. When we had money and everybody believed in rent culture, you meet Governor Amaechi gives you money. You didn't ask him where you got the money from. You build a house from the money Governor Amaechi gave to you. Instead of Governor Amaechi to use that money to build infrastructures that will create employment, that will create industries, and those industries will create employment. He's giving it to you, put it in your pocket. All of us were guilty of the crime. Now, those people we denied that employment are the people that are on the street. It has nothing to do with religion. They're on the street. So Christians are involved, Muslims are involved, everybody's involved. You get the point? When they were kidnapping in River State those days, people didn't know it would spread. It's everywhere now. And the rich is not safe. You can't go out. You can't have those funds you used to have parties. First, there's no money to have the party. If you want to have the party, I was in a party, a wedding ceremony yesterday. It took my security to let me get into the car.
Why is that?
Because people were after you. Give us money. You know, there's this joke about, I don't know if I should say it, but there's this joke of a Nigerian armed robber in London who saw a Nigerian politician. I won't tell you which category the Nigerian politician belonged to, and said, your money or your life. And the man said, please, sorry, I'm a Nigerian politician. He said, your money or our money or your life. That's where we are now. Everybody has to return that money so that we grow the economy, so we can create employment and education, so that people can be employed and get jobs, then so that crime will reduce. You know, I tell this joke every time when I was governor of the party. I said, if all of us were working in Shell, there will be no time to kidnap, because 6 a.m. you're at work. You close at 6 p.m., you're tired, you're sleeping. So you have no time to kidnap. But because we deny people employment, we deny them their right to wealth, that's why everybody is suffering.
I know you also spoke about the fact that the Abuja-Kaduna rail, initially the feasibility plan was 300 people as a result of insecurity.
That's when we did it, not the feasibility, the traffic count. How many passengers do we think we can convey from Kaduna to Abuja?
But it increased because of the security challenges that we have in those areas. So is there any target, any maybe estimate of how much job creation do you think all of this can, when you put it in place?
Good question. And the man who asks that question all the time is the Minister for Labour. I tell him, go and do your research, not me. My job is to construct and create that. But to an extent, I can't remember Abuja Kaduna, because when I joined it when it was about 70-80% completed by President Goodluck Jonathan's government. But let me talk about Lagos Ibadan. We created about 10,000 employment.
Direct
employment. Indirect, you can't count. You count more than 100,000. But that's not enough, because at the end of construction, what happens next? At the end of construction, you then enable those who have industries around, or who want to create industries, to create those industries by giving them spurs whenever they need one. That way they create industries, they create employment. Figures I don't have now. I'm not among those Nigerians who will tell you 200,000, 500,000. I have to have those figures after I must have told around the Department of Railways to get me those figures.
Okay, two things. So we understand that there was an attack on the Regasa coach. I know you appeared.
That's not true. That's not
it's
true.
Not.
Don't follow them. What I hear is passengers who have left the station on their way home. Well, not at the station, because we have enough security both inside the train and outside the train and in the air.
Okay. And then just before you go, I mean, this also came up. I mean, how can we do this without asking you about politics? Your APC counterpart, Magnus Abe, Senator Abe, is suing for peace in Rivers State. He wants everybody to pull together. And then, after all, it's about the people. What do you think?
I'm not a politician.
You're not a politician?
I'm not.
But politics is the act of policy making and implementation. So in that line, you're a politician.
Policy making makes me a politician. So that's why we're discussing politics.
This is a step.
You're a politician.
This is the step to making policies. Once there's peace for the people, then you can make policies.
I don't know if you know me too well, but the impression I like to live with literally every Nigerian, especially those that I mentor, is that I'm an honest Nigerian, right? That I won't betray my friends, right? And that I will do the best I can to salvage the country. That's enough, and that doesn't make me a politician. Very few politicians have those.
In that case, you're a member of the APC.
That doesn't seem make me a politician.
That's interesting.
Give us your honest opinion about, I mean, everybody's talking about security. We all agree we need to do something. But how to do it, what to do, we all seem to not agree.
It's not true. I've said this several times. I said it when I was a governor. I'm still saying it now. I'm saying that you have insecurity not because those guys want to be criminals. They are criminals because they are looking for livelihood. When I was a governor, I said this, and I'll repeat it here. I say that if the government and the ruling class refuse to provide legitimate means of livelihood for the poor will provide for themselves illegitimate means of livelihood, and the rich won't sleep.
Good place to let it go. We do thank you for coming on this morning, the Honorable Minister for Transport, Chibike Amaechi. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.